You've spent years trying to fix your life from the outside. New job, new city, new routine. And nothing sticks. That's not bad luck. That's a law older than any civilization you've ever studied, working exactly as designed. 3,000 years ago, a set of teachings emerged from ancient Egypt. Attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, they became known as the Hermetic principles. For centuries, they were passed in secret, mouth to ear, teacher to student. And buried inside them is a single idea that explains why some people escape poverty and others never do, no matter how much help they receive. The idea is this: your outer world is a mirror. It reflects what's happening inside your mind with terrifying precision. Not as poetry, as mechanism. The first Hermetic principle states that the universe is mental. Everything you experience begins as a thought pattern. Your bank account, your relationships, your health. All of it downstream from the mental images you hold most consistently. This sounds abstract until you watch it play out in real lives. Take someone who wins the lottery. Research from the National Endowment for Financial Education shows that roughly 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years. They received millions from the outside. Their internal blueprint for wealth never changed, so the money left. It had to. The outer world snapped back to match the inner one. Now, take the opposite case. Someone loses everything. Business collapses, savings gone, reputation destroyed. Yet within a few years, they're back, sometimes stronger than before. Why? Because the internal architecture was still intact. The blueprint survived the fire. This is what Hermeticism has been saying for millennia. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. But knowing this creates a problem. If poverty starts inside, how do you change what's inside? You can't just think positive and wait for checks to arrive. The Hermetic teachings are precise about this, and they go far deeper than modern self-help wants to admit. The second principle is correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. This isn't a vague metaphor. It's an operating instruction. Every pattern in your external life corresponds to a pattern in your internal life. Your debt corresponds to a belief. Your stuck career corresponds to an expectation. Your repeating relationship failures correspond to a story you keep telling yourself. Neville Goddard, one of the most practical teachers of these principles in the 20th century, put it bluntly. He said your assumptions harden into fact. He didn't mean eventually, he meant constantly. Every moment, your deeply held assumptions are crystallizing into the events, people, and circumstances of your life. Here's where most people get stuck. They try to change the assumption while still staring at the evidence of the old one. They look at their empty bank account and try to feel wealthy. They look at their lonely apartment and try to feel loved. The contradiction tears them apart. The Hermetic solution is specific. You must change your inner state first, then hold it regardless of what the outer world is still showing you. There's a gap, a delay between the internal shift and the external reflection. That gap is where almost everyone quits. The third principle, vibration, explains why. Everything moves, nothing rests. Every thought you think has a frequency. Poverty isn't just a financial condition, it's a vibrational state. It's the frequency of fear, of not enough, of bracing for the next disaster. And that frequency acts like a filter on your perception. Two people walk down the same street. One is vibrating at scarcity. They see closed doors, competition, reasons it won't work. The other is vibrating at abundance. They see the same street and notice opportunities, connections, open paths, same street, same reality. Completely different experience. The vibration came first. The perception followed. This is why external aid alone can't solve poverty. You can hand someone resources, education, even a fully built business. If their dominant vibration is scarcity, they will unconsciously make decisions that return them to scarcity. They'll sabotage the business, they'll spend the money, they'll push away the people who could help, not because they're flawed, because the inner frequency is running the show. If you're watching this and something is clicking, take a second to subscribe. This channel exists to share ideas that actually shift how you operate, not just how you feel for 10 minutes. The fourth principle is polarity. Everything has two poles. Hot and cold are different things. They're different degrees of the same thing. Wealth and poverty aren't opposites. They're two ends of one spectrum, and you can move along that spectrum by changing your mental position. This is the part most people miss. You don't have to make some giant leap from broke to rich. You shift degrees. You move from deep scarcity to mild scarcity, from mild scarcity to neutral, from neutral to mild abundance. Each shift is small. Each one changes what you see, what you attract, and what you do. Goddard taught a technique for this. He called it living in the end. You construct a mental scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. Then you enter that scene with feeling repeatedly until it feels natural, until it stops feeling like imagination and starts feeling like memory. When that shift happens, your vibration has changed. The outer world begins to reorganize. But there's a force working against you. The fifth principle, rhythm, says everything flows in cycles. There will be periods of momentum and periods of pullback. Most people mistake the pullback for failure. They were making progress, things were shifting, and then a setback hits. They conclude it didn't work and return to their old patterns. The Hermetic masters taught something called the law of neutralization. You can't stop the rhythm, but you can refuse to be pulled back to the lowest point of the swing. When the pullback comes, you hold your inner position. You don't deny the setback. You refuse to let it define your state. The rhythm still swings, but you swing from a higher center point. Each cycle carries you further instead of returning you to zero. This is the difference between someone who builds wealth over decades and someone who keeps starting over. Both experience setbacks. One holds their inner ground, the other lets every external event dictate their internal state. The sixth principle, cause and effect, seals it. Nothing happens by chance. Every effect has a cause. Most people live at the level of effects. They react to what happens. They feel good when money comes in, terrible when it doesn't. Their entire emotional life is dictated by circumstances. The Hermetic practice is to move from the plane of effects to the plane of causes, to become the one who initiates rather than the one who responds. This means choosing your mental state deliberately before the evidence supports it. It means deciding who you are before your bank account agrees. A practical example. Someone decides they're a person who handles money well. Their current account says otherwise. They hold the decision anyway. They start noticing small opportunities to manage what little they have more carefully. They make one better choice, then another. The choices compound. The account begins to shift, not through magic, through a changed cause producing a changed effect. The seventh principle is gender. Every creation requires both masculine and feminine energy. The masculine is the conscious intention. The feminine is the subconscious that births it into reality. Most people set intentions consciously, but never plant them in the subconscious. They want wealth with their thinking mind, while their subconscious runs programs about unworthiness and limitation. Goddard's technique of entering a drowsy state before sleep and impressing a scene on the subconscious was designed to solve exactly this. In that half-asleep state, the critical conscious mind relaxes. The subconscious is open. Whatever you impress upon it in that window gets planted deep. And the subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't check if it's realistic. It simply begins producing circumstances that match. So here's what all 7 principles point toward. Poverty persists, not because the world is unfair, though it often is. Poverty persists because the internal pattern keeps regenerating the external condition. Every government program, every charity, every windfall of cash is working against an invisible current when the recipient's inner world hasn't changed. This isn't blame. This is mechanics. A thermostat set to 60 degrees will cool down a room you've heated to 80. You can keep pumping heat in. Until you change the setting, the thermostat wins. Your self-concept is that thermostat. Your financial reality keeps returning to whatever temperature it's set at. The way out is uncomfortable and unsexy. You sit with yourself. You identify the beliefs running beneath your financial life. You notice the script. Money is hard to get. People like me don't get ahead. Something always goes wrong. Then you don't fight those beliefs. You replace them. You construct a new inner reality, and you move into it like you'd move into a new house. You sleep there. You wake up there. You live there mentally, even while your physical world is still catching up. The gap between the inner shift and the outer change is the test. That gap has a name in every tradition. Christians call it faith. Hermeticists call it mental transmutation. Stoics call it discipline of perception. The label doesn't matter. The practice is the same. Hold the new state until the mirror catches up. Your poverty cannot be fixed from the outside because it was never caused from the outside. The cause is internal. The fix is internal. And the moment you genuinely change what's happening in your mind, your world doesn't have a choice. It has to follow, not because of wishful thinking, because that's how the mirror works. It reflects, it always has, it always will. The only question left is what you're going to stand in front of it and be.